Hey guys, you're watching Inside the Circle T with Scotty Cameron. On today's segment, we are talking with a friend of mine for many of years and a gentleman of a guy, Scott Stallings. He'll talk about his putters, we'll talk about stuff inside the Circle T, and with our rep, Drew Page. Hope you enjoy.
Welcome to Inside the Circle T. My name is Drew Page. Here with me today, I have Scott Stallings, three-time PGA Tour winner out of Knoxville, Tennessee. Scott, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah. First off, love the wall in the background. Love the bags full of putters in the background. That's a good way to start off. Like that's a good head cover there. The first one I see with all the dancing Circle T's there.
I tried to get I have a wide array. Cameron is the only thing in my career I don't really get rid of. I try to have one made for every year I've been on tour. It's kind of like a special piece. We'll do one of those in a minute that I sent you pictures of. That's probably my favorite one. That's literally never seen grass. But more just, huge fan of as much as what it does for us on the golf course, but just the art side of it when you go to the studio and kind of see what's truly capable. Because when you go in there, you got to get in your mind of what you see, and then you see like, oh man, these people are the best in the world, so we're going to let them do it. So I tried to get a good assortment of what's all available behind me.
So this is from M. Brock's 20. What was your first Scotty Cameron putter, and when was it?
All right, so it was the very, very first, like, old school mil-spec, David Duval 59 mil-spec putter. That was my first one, silver, and immediately transitioned that to a Terillium, which if I could get rid of any putter that I have to have that original Terillium, because man, like that had the oil, that had the towel, the cloth to clean it off and everything. I actually ended up trading that for another, basically a store bought, basically our off the rack version of like Tigers. I mean, as much as they were going to do that back in like the late 90s, but right when he started using the timeless and everything. But that first Terillium, the mil-spec was awesome, but the Terillium was like, all right, man, this is a golf club, but this is also, I mean, just like Scotty said, this is art, and you saw everything. And like I never, that's probably the best I've ever taken care of a golf club in my life. And so
but you traded that one, right?
Man, Tiger had the timeless, and it was like, I gotta have that.
David Peril Muter 1 asked, favorite Scotty Cameron of all time that is in your collection or not? So would it be that mil-spec, or would it be the
No, Terillium? it would be the Terillium. I had a Newport Terillium and no Circle T, no nothing. I mean, I was 13 years old, something like that, 14 years old. And man, that's what I had. And it was awesome. And then I traded it to get what Tiger was using. And I just remember watching. So he started putting with that in 99. Is that correct?
Yes, late 99, early 2000.
Yeah. So 99, he won the PGA with it in 99. And I remember watching that at Medina and be like, all right, I got to get one of these things. Not that it had anything to do with my putting, but it was just like, all right, this guy's dominating. And I found someone to trade, and they're like, oh, it's made like Tigers. And now I know now that wasn't the case. But whoever I can't remember who I traded it with, but they got me. So
well, I remember, and it's funny because I had the same conversation with Justin Thomas not long ago, and his was that mil-spec as well. And that was mine. That was my first Scotty Cameron. And he sent pictures of it. We didn't even talk about it, but he sent me pictures of it. And he drew in the cherry bombs that Scotty Cameron puts on that first putter that he did. And he drew it in the back in red Sharpie. And I did the same thing on mine. Because just like, that was like, the Terillium was like Scotty's first, his putter that was made famous, and then that second one, and every kid in America that I knew wanted to have that red cherry bomb in the putter, and it was a prototype and tour only, and it was just like the coolest thing.
Like that one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So why you have that up here? Tell us about that putter.
So this is my gamer. This is basically a Tiger copy, kind of timeless. Top line's a little bit different, but red dot. I mean, you can tell I've used it a while, and I get a bunch of grief on social media and everything. I do change a lot, and I know that it has way more to do with me than the putter. But ultimately, I've now gotten to the point where I'm pretty well committed to this style. This is what I like looking at the best, and this is my favorite thing to look at. But this is my gamer, and GSS, got some pretty cool stamping, got my wife and my kids' names on it. It's got my name on the bottom. But this was the first GSS putter I ever had, and this is probably close to 10 years old.
Yeah.
And but super cool. You know, everyone sees it and immediately just references. No one has any idea what timeless or GSS, like Tiger putter. And
Yeah.
everyone kind of knows what that is. But that was
I think you brought that one out for the first time that I had been working, maybe Bay Hill of 2019. I think that's the first time I saw it. And I was like, wow, that is a good looking putter right there. And probably one of my favorites of yours.
Yeah. Outside of myself, Scott Brown has one that's a little bit older than mine, but mine is probably, I mean, there's some older guys on tour than me, but
yeah.
That would probably be one of the oldest ones that are currently being used on tour right now, outside of Tiger's own putter. But you know, as far as the one that kind of resembles that, I mean, there's a bunch of new makes. I mean, all the stuff that you guys do now is incredible. But as far as the solid block GSS, like that's probably one of the oldest ones out there right now.
Tell us maybe a little bit about your time spent in the studio when you've gone out there.
Well, the first time I ever went to the studio was in the nationwide tour. I just got my card. I missed my card by a shot, and I was getting ready to go to New Zealand. And I went out and hit some balls with JJ. And when he was doing the nationwide guys, and he said, "Man, have you ever been to the Cameron studio?" I was like, "No, I was using a Cameron." But I'd always just, you know, order stuff through our reps, but I never had a chance to do any kind of fitting or anything. And that was right when the button back came out with the Trillium, and it was like Scotty could have told me, like, it didn't matter what he said, I was getting that. And that, in my mind, because that had just come out, it was super cool looking. It was similar to what in my mind was it, but that was the first one I never got. And it was the first time I ever met Paul, first time I ever met Scotty, and kind of did the whole experience of, all right, this is a little bit different deal than your traditional golf club fitting. And you see, everyone thinks of the studio as this magical place, which it is. And I'm not trying to downplay it at all, but I mean, Paul is way more trying to educate guys on what they do good and what they can improve upon, not necessarily, you know, hey, we're going to make a putter that's going to help you putt better, which they will do. But I think everyone wants to go in there and just think Paul's going to, you know, hey, you should putt with this and only putt with this and this. And it's a completely different experience than that. It's way more informative and understanding. And you try to build off every single time you go, because they video and do the things you need to do to try to figure out a way to get better. And it's crazy to see some transitions from my first videos, you know, 10 plus years ago to now.
Right.
And just like how much transition, you kind of go back. All right, man, I did really well there. Actually, when I won San Diego in 2014, I was at the studio that week, and we have a video from that week. And so last time I was there, we looked up at that, and it was crazy to see, you know, just kind of some of the little subtleties that kind of get in your stroke and get your setup. And my struggle is my setup isn't consistent enough. But that whole experience of just walking through there, and then you just see what's truly available and options. And you need someone to kind of hone it in a little bit, because you kind of sit back in that back room where everyone signed their name, and it's just like, all right, this is where the magic happens. And that's a pretty cool experience. And I mean, I've been on tour for 10 years now, and it's always a treat to be able to step inside there and just get to pick the brains of, you know, some of the best in the world.
What advice would you give to maybe like an up and coming amateur or young professional, that like just any advice that you would have for finding a putter and working on that?
Well, I'll tell you a quick story about Scotty, because everyone has their stories about, every time they've met him, or, because he's kind of like somewhat of a mythical figure all throughout. He's there, he's not there, he's just kind of all over the place. I had got a just blacked out 009, and it was pretty blank. It had my initials in it, and I brought it in, and I said, "Man, Paul, I think we could stamp this super cool and kind of be like more of a collector's piece." And he's like, "All right, that's great." I told him I was going to bring it in, and it's like, "Man, let's do something a little bit different." And Paul was kind of throwing out some ideas, and we were hitting some putts like on the green in there and talking about different things. And next thing you know, Scotty comes in and says hello. Doesn't really get in the middle of what Paul and I are doing. He's like, is this what you were talking about, like kind of matching up? Didn't ask me anything of what I wanted. Didn't ask me anything. Just like, can I just kind of do my thing to this? I was like, yes, like, please take it. And it comes back, and it is got all kind of cool stamping. It's got the shaft, like little ribbon, whatever that thing is called. I'd never seen that before. A different grip that I don't even know if they make anymore. This was 5 or 6 years ago. And it comes back, and Paul's like, that's why his name's on the building. It's just kind of, just like almost like mad scientist-ish. And you go back in his little workshop, you see hammers and axes, and I happened to be in there when he was doing the Pistolini grip, and he had all those axe handles back there. And he was just like, man, that felt good in my hand, and I figured that would help people putting. And just like completely different way that a guy's mind works. And it was super cool to see. And by the time it was done, he went back there and did it himself, and comes back and like, that looks way better than anything in my mind. And thought, he's like, yeah, just let me know if you have any other things you want to do to it. That was super cool. But to get back to your giving people advice and putting and how to search for putters, ultimately, not to try to downplay the importance, but most putting instructors will tell you, find something you like looking at first. I mean, there are some, high MOI stuff and different things like that that can make a difference, especially if you have something that's pretty off. But for the most part, you have to like what you're looking at. And I had a putting lesson from Phil Kenyon at Riviera, and he was laughing at me, and he's like, "Man, do you like what you're looking at?" I was like, "Yeah, but I really." He said, "Well, this is an Indian problem, not an arrow problem."
Yeah, I remember it.
And I was like, all right, I know what I like to look at. I'm going to dial this in. And it was amazing. I had Honda. I had my career best strokes gained putting in my career on tour. But it's just like the freedom of someone like freeing me up to like figure out what you like looking at the most. And I mean, that's one of the best putting instructors in the world, telling a tour player, man, just like find what you like looking at, and then we can build it around that. And then once you get to that last like 10%, that's when you kind of dial in the specifics of loft and lie and weight and everything like that. And it's pretty crazy. Most people go counterintuitive. People think heavier is better, especially for the greens that we play on. I would say most guys putt with lighter putters. I like to feel the putter swing through. I would say mine, I've definitely gone down the rabbit hole of trying to make heavier and all the different things and weight in the grip. And you've seen a myriad of different stories.
I was going to say, you're one of the guys that I didn't really know, when I first got out on tour, working out there with Scotty Cameron. And I feel like, I've learned a lot about you because we've worked so much. And yeah, you're exactly right. Like I've seen you go from heavy and counterbalance and weight in both ends and mallets and blades and different lengths. I mean, I feel like I've seen it all with you already, and all this work that you've been putting in, and that helped.
And then we don't play golf. Then we don't play golf for 4 months.
Yeah, a little bit of a crutch or curtail on the momentum there, but like I said, you have this time to practice and kind of hone in even more, so it's good.
Yeah, putting is sort of a bizarre situation just because there's so many different ways to kind of go about it. And just like golf in general, I mean, there's not necessarily one correct way to do it, but kind of like everyone thinks like a tour guy, like this is the drill they work on, this is what they do, and this is how tour players practice. The biggest takeaway that made a difference, like I talked about earlier, my struggle is consistency in my setup. And that's basically in my spot here in my barn in my gym where I practice and do some things is all set up. That's all I do. I mean, I have a spot where I can hit about a 10-footer and it's fine. But basically I have a mirror and some different ways to just kind of check it in there. But the biggest takeaway is I started working. I referenced Scott Brown earlier. He's one of my good buddies. We play and practice together a lot. And he started trying to work out, this new season, and we started training together. And that week, we were doing this kettlebell exercise, and I went and picked the kettlebell up off the ground, and he said, "That's how you should putt." I'm like, what do you mean? Because I kind of struggle to get my shoulder up, kind of cocked to the side. My feet aren't necessarily over, but I grabbed this kettlebell off the ground. My shoulders are square, my hips, my hands were everything, and my hand just kind of fell down up underneath me just exactly like you'd want it. He's like, when you putt, you just imagine picking that up. So I took a bunch of pictures of that, of me picking up this kettlebell. And especially with as much training as I do, is a pretty quick, takeover as far as something that was completely unrelated to golf. I was literally trying to pick this thing up and just bring it over to him so he could do this exercise. And he's like, hold on. And it's just like, we just took a 30-minute break from the workout. He's like, of all the stuff that all these people are trying to help you with, if they saw this one picture, next thing you know, we're having a putting lesson in the middle of this gym. And people were like, what in the world are these guys doing? But it's funny how
that's how it happens sometimes.
For sure.
It's
completely out
not
of
always. Yeah. It just something clicks, and then all of a sudden, everything feels right, and there you go. You're off and running, and your putting's, right where you want it to be. At Ryan Moxie asks, do you putt to a spot by the hole, or do you visualize and pick a spot on the line?
It kind of depends, length and significant break. But for the most part, let's say I got a 20-footer, and let's say it's a decent breaker. I try to find where I want the ball to enter the hole, and then I kind of trace it back to that mid spot as far as the middle part of the putt where I feel like the most break is. And then I read it again from there to emphasize, all right, I do think that spot's correct. And then I go back and I my goal is to try to make sure my ball is going to roll in that general area. And I kind of read it back from there. But especially inside of, probably 10 feet, it's all, whether say it's a left edge, 8-footer up the hill, it's all kind of seeing that ball, at that point, if you can start it online and match your speed up, that's pretty much what you're trying to do. But just a spot right off the ball, man, this is what I'm trying to hit this putt solid and roll it right over.
Like an intermediate target.
Yeah, for sure. And that changes. And my intermediate target kind of moves around, especially when you do a breaking putt. You have such a larger window for the ball to actually go in. When you get a little bit more specific, closer to the hole, right off the ball is the most important. So, that's what I'm trying to look at. Still the same process goes into it, but I'm looking way closer to the ball on a shorter putt and making sure my putters, I hit through the ball and that thing's tracing right over the target that I saw.
So that it flows right into my next question from C. Smitty. He asks, how do you deal with pressure while on the green?
Yeah, the putt on the first hole of the tournament and the putt on the 72nd are just as important. They all add up at the end. And I think people try to emphasize, well, it's a 72nd hole, it's this and that. It's what the moment is probably more important, but the putt is still just important as the one I hit on Thursday. And I think when the process, it kind of reemphasizes that the what the putt is for is irrelevant, whether it's for a 2 or a 10, the process still goes the same. It's when the process changes of, oh, this is for a 10, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, or this is for a 2, I'm really going to grind on it. And you both are wrong.
Right.
You drive it on a drivable par 4 and you got a 20-footer for a 2, and it's like, ooh, I need this. The next thing you know, you make the worst stroke ever. But at the same time, you hit a couple in the water, you can make a whatever, and you're up there slapping it around. Neither one of those are great. It's you see the best players in the world, no matter what they're going through, or what their score is at the end of the hole. The pre-shot's the same. They read the putt the same. They go through it. And I visualize a lot with my caddy, John, and more or less of this is what I see. And he uses aim point a lot as far as, just helping me identify the stuff. I use my feet. I don't necessarily use the numbers, but I use my feet to kind of feel it. And then I try to visualize this is how I see the thing going in there. And I think all that stuff kind of downplays the pressure of the moment. And then once I get over it, I've already done all the hard work. Now it's time to go execute. And you kind of hold yourself accountable to those kind of things.
Yeah. So it's more about the process and kind of just getting prepared. And then once you're up there, you just make the stroke. You've done everything else.
Yeah. I talk a lot about with everything in golf is I want a certain aspect of my golf. I want to be a response, because a response takes thought. That means you kind of I've done all the work and I'm going to go respond and execute. And then there's the reaction. The reaction is sort of a negative thing. Like, I don't want to have a snap reaction to not taking the whole putt into account. I don't want to immediately go in and be like, all right, this is right edge, and go. And the next thing you know, like past the holes, like down and away. I just want to be able to take the whole picture in there and then respond to what I see and then go execute into there. And I think the same thing goes with a lot of people. People make their immediate snap judgment by, all right, this is firm right edge. And they don't realize that 2 feet past the hole, it kind of chases down. Next thing you know, they've hit it too firm, and they had an 8-footer for birdie. Now they got a 9-footer for par. And they're like, I thought it was right edge. Like, well, it was, but you went too hard. And you take into account that if this ball starts trickling past, you just immediately like snap reaction instead of actually taking it all into account.
Yeah, 100%. So _Ryan Hammer asked, advice for a college golfer wanting to pursue playing professional.
Yeah, I think a lot. The biggest thing in college is everything's determined for you. I mean, you played at a great school where you were told when to practice, when to play, when to qualify, how to travel, how to do this. And the biggest thing transitioning from a college program to professional is now you're in charge. You're the boss. You're the one making the decisions. You're the one determining, hey, I've worked hard enough. I haven't worked hard enough, or vice versa. And I think
rent's due every day.
It is, but I think there's a caveat that, people think that they can just out volume people in practice, and that is just not true. And before we started recording, you saw some of the guys I was training with as they were leaving the gym, and talking about a guy 10 years on tour, 7 years in the UFC, and 9 years in Major League Baseball. And we're all like, man, we've never had this time in our career again. We're trying to get away from it because we know that as soon as it goes, man, it's hard and heavy for a while. And I think that early in your career, you only know how to grind. You only know how to play in practice, and you don't really know how to do anything else. You don't know how to get away from the game. And I think just kind of finding that balance early in your career and understanding that setting some goals and setting some drills up to where when I get this done, it's okay to be done. I'm not just grinding for the sake of grinding. And I think when the moment is done, as far as that practice and prep, people don't play enough golf. And just as well, you've seen enough of me on tour. I am not a range guy at all. I'll chip and putt a lot. I'll do all my stuff on the short game, till I'm blue in the face, because that's where you can make the biggest improvement. But I do most of my stuff on the golf course. And I think that is, especially in the junior stuff, whether that's a junior to a college level or a college level to a professional, not enough people know how to play golf. They know how to make these pretty golf swings that look nice, but under the gun, under the pressure, that it doesn't go in the hole as fast as it probably should. Just because, like, oh, this is the first time I played this week. It's like, no. As we talked about, like my playing and practice plan, like I'll kind of work back into some fundamental stuff, and then, man, it's just volume, trying to get as many holes as I possibly can and get comfortable seeing the shots that we all know the stuff we need to work on to get ready. And, that's kind of how I prepare.
Yeah. Awesome response. And I completely agree too. I mean, I grew up on a golf course that didn't have a range. It had 27 holes. So I grew up playing just all the time, and I could do some short game stuff. I had a chipping green and a bunker and all that, but I'm the exact same way, like find that balance. But my balance was playing a lot, not sitting on the range and grinding. So that was great advice. So thank you for that. Ray or underscore Ray 225 asked, when you started working out, what was your motivation on the days you weren't feeling it?
Yeah, I basically I kept a few things with me from all the doctor's offices, and not like I kept this huge like pamphlet of information, but not like just little touches as far as like, man, this was the direction you were headed. And it was just, you read any kind of Atomic Habits is a great book if someone's looking in to try to make some life changes. But basically, idea if you stick to something for 2 weeks, it becomes a habit. And essentially, I just tried to, at first, it was about just building a routine. And then it just became, it doesn't matter if and when, it just matter what time of day I'm going to fit it in. Whether it's wake up at 4 a.m, whether it's 10 at night, I just need to move. And I know how much better I respond to when, and that could be a run, that could be a stretching session, that could be a heavy lifting, that could be cardio intervals, that could be whatever. And just learning how to change it up where you constantly, and that's where I think I got super interested in the programming side of building exercises and building workout programs, just to where I didn't like the monotony of traditional golf fitness. I wanted to change it up to where I was constantly trying to figure out ways to not only make myself better, but become creative too, as far as, this is my lower body workout day. And it's, single leg RDLs and, some band pulls and, some kettlebell swings and some ball slams, and that's it. And I was like, that's not for me. Yeah. And just trying to figure out ways to make it creative to where I enjoyed the process of figuring all that stuff out.
Awesome. Yeah. And obviously when it's fun, you want to do it more, and now you love it. I mean, you live it pretty much. So
yeah, I got some guys that trained today. They didn't like it too much the last couple of days, but they said, man, you've had way too much time on your hands to figure some of this stuff out.
See, and I would probably be that same guy if I came in there. I'd be like, oh man, I hated doing that. But for some reason, I think you love it. Like you love that. I mean, you love finding out new ways, and you love like just crushing it.
Yeah, I like figuring out ways to put myself in an uncomfortable spot and learn how to be okay with that. And whether that's, I mean, yesterday we did some of the hardest cardio intervals I've ever done in my life. And then coming out on the other side of it, started with a 2-mile run and it ended with a 2-mile run. So I'm going to be super uncomfortable the entire time, but I also have to run throughout this process. And I'm just going to learn the same thing. Like there's going to be so many uncomfortable moments in life, and especially whatever you do for a living in sports, there's so many different things you come in contact with. It's like, if I can be comfortable in this situation, I can basically deal with anything. Yeah. And so I'm running a half marathon on Saturday. So
that's awesome. Wow.
That'd be a new experience. So we got some guys that we train with. We're like, man, we all suck at running. Let's see what we can do. Is like, man, let's build up to a half marathon. So Saturday's our day.
All right. Well, good luck. All right. My question for you: how many Scotty Camerons do you have in your collection?
Is this like a test question? Like, is someone going to show up at my house? Is Scotty going to show up at my house?
I don't think so. You could have them in a safe. You could have them in a vault.
Do you know the answer to this?
I don't know. I have no.
I have a lot. And like I said, of 13 years of professional golf, and I've played Titleist since college. So that's all I've used for, I mean, hard to imagine, almost 20 years now. So the amount of volume that you build up, and, I would say that I'm a collector as well. But, I mean, we're into multiple bags. So this is not it behind me. So I don't know the exact number, but I've got probably 5 or 6 that no one has really ever seen, whether one of the ones I sent you the picture of, the one with the cherry bombs on it and stuff, but that are more almost like collector's items for me.
you showed us one already. I think you have two more that you brought out that were special. Just show us those.
I did my gamer. I did my gamer earlier. We referenced the Tiger putter. That's the one I use. I'm gonna practice with it today. This is 009. It's beach. It's got some lead tape on it, but this is what I won the Greenbrier. It's my first tour win, and nothing super stamped. You can see where it's been well used. Odd to see a Titleist stamping still on it, so you can tell it's older. And a lot of the new ones do not have that. But you'll never forget your first win. Pretty crazy finish. I basically almost broke this thing on the green when I made the putt to win. I slammed it on the ground so hard. But always cool to have. I always keep this out of my putting green and pick it up every now and then and look at it. And then probably my favorite one that has never seen the grass is a Timeless GSS all black. It was covered up. It's got some cool stamping on the front. It's got my name on the back. And then the bottom has got the guy. He's basically dropping bombs on the bottom of the putter. Man, I want to do something as kind of a collector, basically the same version of the putter that I'm using. Because I have another putter that's a Timeless as well. It's got those double lines on it. So, man, let's do a cool one. And Kelly brought that out. He's like, we did this stamping. We think it's awesome. And but
that was pretty good. So
that's probably my favorite one.
Well, thanks, Scott, so much for taking the time out of your day and joining us on Inside the Circle T. Anything else you'd like to add before we go?
No, I mean, people aren't taking the time to figure out how to get a Cameron in their hands. They're making a mistake. You guys have been great to me throughout my career, and I can't imagine putting with anything else through the remainder. So I appreciate you guys having me on, and hopefully we'll see you back on tour here not too long.
Yeah, hopefully see you soon. All right, stay safe, and we'll talk soon.
All right, thank you, Drew.
All right, thanks, guys.